Well, good afternoon, everybody. This is Matt Eddy here, and welcome to our Customer Advisory Forum. This is November the 18th, 2020, and probably our second event, I think, this year that we've done. Probably not as many as we'd hoped, and probably not in person like we'd hoped, but nonetheless, we are here with a wide cast of guest speakers to run you through a pretty packed agenda. So before I begin, I'd just like to say a few housekeeping rules. Make sure you guys are aware of what we're doing, and I'll run through the agenda, and then we'll pass it across to the speakers. So first of all, welcome to wherever you're dialing in or connecting in from. For those that haven't used the platform before, there's a bunch of widgets and links and connections. Hopefully people have been exploring those as they've logged in. So explore those widgets, resize the windows. We'll be doing a couple of demos, which might look a bit small unless you expand them. And there's a lot of information on some of the slides. So try and get that middle window as large as you can. You know, whether you have to sacrifice the video of me or anyone else, then so be it. Also, depending on what connection you've got, there may be a bit of a lag. So let it sometimes catch up. It might take a little while to catch up, but it should buffer and then be back live again. You can submit questions at any time through the other question widget. We will be also doing some poll questions, which feel free to pick which ones you want. We really value the information we get out of poll questions because they have some really great insight from you, the customers, that we can get at scale. So please do answer those as accurately as possible. If we have anyone internal dialed in, those aren't for you because that's just going to skew the results. Let's keep that for customers only. And then the last couple of points, we'll make all of the material available after the webinar. And we've got a couple of bits we didn't manage to get in time, which we'll also include. And then last but not least, we'll have a feedback form at the end so we can capture whatever your thoughts are, whether good, bad, what you want to change, what you want to see more of, etc. Excuse me. So today's presenters, there's quite a list of characters here. So we've got obviously myself, we've got Jeff Sewell, Joe Miller, Ted Lukowski, we've got Vesna, we've got Brad, we've got Tatanka, we've got Visavi, we've got Sonia, we've got Mahesh. You can read through all of the job titles there, and we've also got the contact details there. Everyone's very happy to get in contact with you. If you do have any questions, if you post the questions here and we're able to answer them while we're in the webinar, then we will. If we can't answer them, we'll take them away. Like I say, we'll get back to you after the fact as well. So some of the same names you've seen before, but also some of the new names as well. Okay. So on to today's agenda. We've split the agenda into two parts. First part, as you can read on the screen, is the product change notification. So really large part of why we're here, to talk about the rebranding that came out as part of the PCNs, and explain what they are, why they're important, what you want to do logistically, what the benefits are to you. And then we'll move across and we'll then talk about what our 2021 roadmap looks like. We've spent a lot of time over the past several months refining what our deliverables will be, what those customer benefits will be, and we'll talk about those as well in that roadmap review. We'll have a few little demos in there. There's a lot of material to cover. If you've got questions, like I say, post them. We'll get to as many as we can. Equally so, if you have a look in the links section on your screen, you will see a Q&A or a FAQ there, predominantly for TREP and DACS, but it's applicable pretty much for all of our product sets as well. So it might be that we've already addressed your question in there. Have a read of that, have a browse of that while we move through the presentations. The last point before we kind of move into the main event is that there's a lot of brand changes going on. This is a non-exhaustive list of the branding name changes. Probably most of the ones that you'll be hearing about today that you probably care about if you're talking real time with Refinitiv. I know there's a lot of text on the screen. You can kind of see the general themes that we've got there. So during this transition period over the next sort of, from now all the way through to next July, we're going to be moving as swiftly as we can to the new names. But for the sake of expediency and just so you don't lose track of what we're doing today, a large part of what we'll do today will still be using the old brand names or the current brand names, okay? But expect to see all of the documentation and all of the binaries and all the marketing materials moving forward as well, okay? So let's kick off. First section is product change notifications. I'll run through an overview first of the sort of the background, the summary, why we're here, and then we'll have an in-depth look at each of the product requirements, logistics, etc. Then we'll go through a Q&A, okay? So, rebranding overview and background. I'll run through what the scope is. As many of you may be aware, we actually already have sent out product change notifications. We've also sent customer letters out. This covers the entire range of what has been Thomson Reuters products. Obviously, we'll be talking about real-time only today. So if you haven't been contacted already, please do get in contact with your account team. We'll also have a question later on that you can submit if you want someone to contact you to talk about this in a little bit more detail, okay? The blue text that's on the screen right now is what was included in the customer letters. And then the bullet points below are really, what it actually means to you as customers, okay? Some of the key phrases and some of the key dates and deadlines we pulled out. And really it revolves around the 31st of July. After that point, we'll only be able to offer rebranded versions of software, products, services, APIs, URLs, the domains we look after, and all of the documentation. So there'll be no software releases after that July deadline for non-branded versions. So whilst everything will continue to work, you've got to think that after that date, you'll need to be on the latest rebranded versions to take advantage of all of the new features, benefits, or any bug fixes that we're going to release post that, okay? So I think one of the main concerns we've heard from our customer base is, how urgent is this? What's the change? How will it impact me? What do I have to do between now and July? Like I say, we'll go into a lot of detail with that, but just at a high level, for real-time services at least, which is obviously something that I look after, the services will remain the same before and after, during and after the transition. So support will remain the same regardless of the version. We'll still triage, we'll still investigate issues, we'll still provide workarounds for issues that you face. The only difference being after that 31st of July, any software fixes we may need to apply, those will be provided on the latest rebranded versions. So we're getting those latest rebranded versions out the first cut as of today, actually, and then through the rest of the year. So you'll have time to play with that, to put it into your lab, to dev, and then promote it into prod. So on the rare occasions, and they are really, really rare occasions that they are needed, those e-loads will release those for those rebranded versions. And historically, probably for the past 3 or 4 years, we've only launched those rebranded, or e-loads rather, for the latest version that's out there. So we don't tend to do e-loads for historical or legacy versions anyway. So it really does pay to kind of keep up to date with the versions that we're releasing, okay? So hopefully that's sort of set the tone at a high level that your software and apps, APIs, etc., will still be working absolutely beyond that deadline. It's just, if you want to get new features, support for issues that you face, that needs to be on the other piece, on the new branded versions. But aside from the obligations that we've laid out here, I mean, why would we rebrand and why would we do it now? And there's a couple of pieces: simplification and alignment. So the simplification really is around what we've been doing to listen to our customers. For those that have been dealing with Refinitiv, Thomson Reuters for decades, you know the product sets, you know the nomenclature, you know the brand names. But what a lot of our customers have said is that it can be confusing to promote that internally, to talk about it, to identify which of the products they need because of all of the kind of the acronyms and internal sort of buzzwords and brand names that we use. What we've done, we've taken a conscious effort to move away from that and focus absolutely on industry standard naming conventions. So if you're a new or existing customer, you don't need to guess what Electron is or Icon is or any of the other features out there. It will actually be self-descriptive. It'll say what it does on the tin. And then I mentioned the alignment, and the alignment really is around what we're trying to do as a company, moving away from these product silos and moving towards a single data platform. And having all of the consistent brand names, but more importantly, the domain names, the Refinitiv naming conventions all the way through our stack is going to bring all of that story together. So that's a really kind of important point to note, that this is moving us to where we need to be as a platform company, as a goal of having a singular access for all of the data that we provide, all of those different data sets. So hopefully that's given you a little bit of a background into the drivers for the change, some sort of headline dates. And in a second, we'll dive into the product specific notes. But before we do that, I wanted to put a poll question out there. It's an important one for us as well. It'll also get you used to the idea of paying attention and looking for these poll questions as they come through. I'll read through it, give you time to digest it. It's a pretty straightforward one, shouldn't take too long. If you can submit your answers, once I've got a few people responded, then I'll show the results and see where we are. So, did you receive and/or actually read the product change notifications for the real-time changes? Okay. So, let's have a think about that. I'll give it a few seconds. I'm just seeing the numbers popping in now. Take a sip of water, give the people a chance. Okay, so let me push this question back out to you guys, and we'll see what the results look like. And those results are actually pretty good. I'm actually quite pleased that we've got 2/3 of the audience are actually looking at those PCNs. They were reading them, digesting them. Might not be happy with the contents of them, but at least you're aware of the changes that are coming. So that's absolutely great. I think that also reinforces the fact a third of the participants have not actually seen the PCNs or read them. And obviously for something that's critical, and for all of the PCNs really that are time sensitive, really does pay to make sure you're getting access to those. So if you aren't, then contact us after the fact. We'll make sure you're on that mailing list so that we actually can get those into your hands. Okay? So I think that's probably enough talking from me to start with. I think what we've got now is we'll run through all of the PCNs in a bit more detail. And first up, we're going to speak to Jeff, who's going to run you through the in old parlance, the TREP PCN, some of the key dates, proposed approaches, etc., that you see on the screen now. So, Jeff, can you take over, please?
Sure. Thanks, Matt. And thanks, everyone, for joining us today. I'm going to run through the details for ADH, ADS, ADS POP. The first thing I'll bring to your attention on the slide, you'll see at the top, is the link to the product change notification, which is available. Obviously, we just saw 2/3 of you have seen it, but the link will be there. This will be part of the follow-up material we'll be sending out. All right. So the first fully rebranded release of ADH, ADS, and ADS POP are now available to download from MyRefinitiv. And this aligns with the beginning of this customer migration period, which is November 2020, as you see on the slide. And we're recommending that you complete your upgrade to the fully rebranded version of software by July 31st of next year. All right. We released, or we certainly have been for the last couple of years, releasing 3 or 4 upgrades to TREP per year. So I'm sure everyone has a procedure in place to manage the upgrade process. This will be a standard upgrade and a drop-in replacement, which doesn't even require a configuration change. So this will be, I guess, a relatively easy upgrade per se. And to show you how easy this will actually be, Joe's going to do a demo for you in a moment that will show you how little effort it'll actually take to perform this upgrade. So as always, we'll support you on this upgrade through a list of contacts you can see here on the slide. That will include either a customer onboarding specialist or customer success manager. And also we have our professional services group that's also available for those customers that need assistance or those that belong to the customer care program. So basically in summary here, so ADH, ADS, ADS POP 3.5.0, that's the first rebranded version of software, available now to download on MyRefinitiv. You can also download a list of FAQs on MyRefinitiv if you haven't seen those. There's some useful information in there that might be helpful to answer other questions. And as Matt said earlier, you're also welcome to email me or any of us. All right, Matt, if you could flip the slides. Thank you. All right, as Matt mentioned earlier, the existing versions of TREP will continue to work after July 31st, as illustrated in column 3. You'll see column 3 is, will these versions stop working? And for each version, the answer is no, 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 no. So that's all good. And just as he said, we'll continue to support these existing versions that are in the field, as illustrated in column 4. Basically says, will we continue to support non-rebranded versions? Answer is emphatically yes. So those are the main issues to be concerned with. The existing versions of software will still work, and the existing versions of software will still be supported. And again, the FAQ doc that I just mentioned, there's information in there about the support model, and there's also a couple of examples of the support model and issues that could occur, between now in the July 31st timeframe, and then what would happen after the 31st of July. So what we simply ask now is that you please factor in this 31st of July date into your upgrade plans, because after that date, it's the only way you're going to get new enhancements, new features, bug fixes, and emergency loads will be to have installed the fully rebranded version of software. All right. So that takes care of that. The rest of this chart, right, the rest of this table rather, right, we understand that there's absolutely no value at all in swapping out one version of software for another if the only change is a replacement of references to Thomson Reuters with Refinitiv. We get it. We understand that, right? And I want to address that issue because it's important. So now we want to look at some examples using the last 3 columns in this table, which list the number of enhancements that were available with each release, right? So let's just say the last time you did a TREP upgrade was 2 years ago, right? And so that would mean you're currently running, if you look down the table 2 years ago, you're currently running version 3.3.0, okay? There's been 7 new releases and nearly 50 new enhancements since you last upgraded, all right? So another example here, let's say you upgraded just a year ago and you're running version 3.3.3. There's nearly 30 new enhancements with the latest release with 3.5.0, and there'd be 35 new enhancements if you wait until the end of January for version 3.5.1 to do your upgrade. So, and we'll hit the roadmap in the second part of the presentation, as Matt said earlier. But so the point I want to make here is the total number of features and new features and enhancements that will be available to you are going to depend on what version of software you're currently running. But the point is that every software release we do includes a number of new features, new enhancement, and bug fixes that go well beyond just simply an upgrade to address our separation agreement and the need to rebrand software. So please keep that in mind. Again, as I mentioned, you'll be getting a copy of these slides. So you'll see that the links at the top of these tables will take you to the What's New docs that are available on MyRefinitiv, and you can actually go through a list of the new enhancements that we have, right? And again, the 3.5 What's New just came out today, and I'll include that link on there when that's available, right? So again, lots of enhancements depending on when the last version of upgrade, the last upgrade that you did, and I'm sure that there's additional features here that will add value to your implementation. All right. That's it for me, Joe, for that moment. Or Matt. Sorry, I know who's next. Gave it up.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate that. So I think that, as Jeff just mentioned, we'll move on and actually have a quick little demonstration from Joe, just on how seamless this actually can be in terms of the drop-in replacement. So Joe, did you want to just quickly walk through the next couple of slides, sort of set the scene, and then we'll hop onto your machine?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, guys. And don't forget WPG. We also rebranded that as well. So there's a new WPG version out there, 1.2.0. But the headline is binaries are drop-in replacements, right? We want to make this thing as simple and straightforward for you, the customers, as possible. Anybody still on 2.6, we'd love to see you get up to 3.5. It's a drop-in, just be cautious around the number of threads. 2.6 defaults with threading off, whereas 3.x defaults with threading on. So just make sure you go back and rerun your tconfig on your threads, and you should be good to go. We did choose some new default environment variables, Etsy services, configuration paths, things like that. But again, the important part is that we'll always default back to the previous environment variables if the new ones aren't set. Etsy services are all configurable today. So if you don't want to move, you don't have to move, right? If you want to keep on your old, even if you want to keep on your old Triarch sync, right? That's totally up to you. But we have some new recommended defaults there. As everyone is seeing, I see the question in the Q&A as well. We are no longer providing documentation within the software packages, and there was a couple of reasons. Several years ago, we sort of went to a new sort of versioning, right? Now it's all 3.3x or 3.4x or 3.5x. So we really don't get down to that minor version anymore. And hosting them online allows us to continually add updates and make changes to the documentation. And then you guys can always download the latest, versus us releasing it every release. Now you guys have access, continual upgrades, and we'll continue enhancing those based on feedback and additional material we want to add to the documentation. And another big benefit that maybe some of you guys might not think about, but it really reduces the size of the software packages. So you guys slinging software packages up in AWS or across prems really reduces the size of the software packages now. So that's a huge help as well, I think. We got rid of sync driven source. Everything's test server now. We only want to support one provider application going forward. Test server should have all the functionality that you guys have with sync driven source. Obviously, if there's any differences there, please let us know, but we think we're pretty solid there. And then so I'll get in a demo. I think there were some questions on the Q&A about, will we ever drop support for the old environment variables? Right now, I don't think so. The old environment variables like RMDS config, we're sort of okay because they're RMDS and there's not TR in there. But so we'll continue to support the old environment variables, and then hopefully you guys can eventually transition to the new stuff once you're ready. I think there was another question Aaron asked about acronyms. So we've been kind of directed to kind of maybe steer away from acronyms a little bit, but we have to use one at some point. So we're trying to keep it sort of 4-letter acronym there with RTDS. I think there was another question there about license. Yes, of course, it's a 3.5, so you'll have to upgrade new license files. And then Jeff, Matt, why don't you flip to the next slide real quick? So this is just a quick table of the highlights of the changes. I try to put this information inside the README as well, so you guys can always go back and refer to that. But so when we come up, we're going to start reading the new environment variables. If we can't find them, or we can't find the old var Reuters RMDS config, then we'll go to the old one. But we always look for the new first, and then we'll go back to the old. License file the same way. I think most people configure the license file through the configuration, but there are environment variables there as well. But same way, we'll kick back to the old one if the new one's not there. Some new recommended Etsy services. Again, totally up to you guys if you want to move to that, but we try to clean that up and be consistent across the board for REST and WebSockets. The tools, simple change there, command line, nothing changes, just the name of the binary. Some textual changes in the output maybe, but test client, test server is the new direction. And then we create a new Docker hub. So we went from TREP Docker to Refinitiv Real-Time. I think we have plans in the future to offer ATS, DACS containers, all those things. So hopefully we can just dump all that stuff into Refinitiv Real-Time, and then you guys have access to a single repo that contains all of our Refinitiv Real-Time containers. I think that's it. I'll move on to the demo real quick. I think there was also a question on Q&A about, is there a minimum supported version that you need to upgrade from? As long as you're on a supported TREP version 2.6x, which I think 2.6.12 was kind of the latest there, and then I think all the way back to 3.0, we don't make any assumptions. We assume, just drop in for any supported TREP version. Again, just cautious around the number of threads there when upgrading from 2.6 to 3.0. I think in the Q&A there was another question about kind of, around, am I going to have to rebrand again after this? So as you can see from some of the names, we tried to make it more of a generic rebrand for you guys. Instead of building Refinitiv into a lot of this stuff, we kind of make it go back to our roots and just distribution system. So hopefully, in the future, we're helping protect customers from anything that would maybe come down their path again. So on to the demo. Let me share my screen. So I have a standard TREP 333 running, just on a single box, ADH and ADS. I'm connected to ERT Cloud right now. Going down Electron DD. So about 8,500 items open. You can see my RMDS test client. Streaming an update rate. 333 running from bar routers, RMDS, CNF. My ADS is the same. 333, and then your typical RMDS, CNF. All the Rtsdk services are the same as what you guys use today. So RMDS SL sync, RMDS RSL sync. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to upgrade. And to show you guys that you guys can mix versions while you upgrade, so you can run RTDS ADH and still run a TREP ADS, or however you guys want to update that. There's no incompatibilities there. I'm going to update my ADH first. This is just a quick script I put together. You guys probably have something similar when you're upgrading. This is a standard TREP upgrade, right? So we're going to go from an old version to a new version. I'm going to stop the old ADH. I'm going to copy the tarball down from wherever you're storing it, unzip it, untar it. The only thing I do have to bring over is I'm going to bring over my start script, right? So the old start scripts were exporting RMDS config, where the new start scripts are exporting distribution config. I want to keep old, right? So I'm going to keep my RMDS config. So I'm just going to copy my start script over. And then that's pretty much it. I have a soft link here to the bin directory to make it easier. A quick while loop to make sure the old ADH process is gone. And then I'm going to start up my new ADH with 350. Here you can see I'm untarring the tarball. You can see that the ADH went down. The new ADH is coming up. So if I go back to my process stats screen, I'm now running 350. Using the same config that I was before, the same config that I did a tconfig with 333, I'm just dropped in 350 and ran it up. And you can see my service is back up. All my items are streaming again. We're up here. Again, my ADS is still 333. But my ADH has been upgraded to 350. Obviously, you'll see all the rebranding stuff. So we got rid of all the routers. It's all now Refinitiv. RWF is now Refinitiv wire. So now I want to go ahead and I'm going to upgrade my ADS. Kind of the same script I built for the ADH. I'm just upgrading ADS versions from 333 to 350, bringing the tarball down, unzipping, untarring, bringing my start script up. While loop check, make sure the old ADS is down, and then I'm going to restart 350. Bring down all the ADS, untarring. And again, these are the same steps you guys have to go through anytime you upgrade TREP, Triarch, RMDS in the past, same exact steps. I'm not doing anything here, just standard upgrading software. So now you can see my test client when it comes back. You can see the new component version is 3.5.0. ADS on. Now running RTDS 3.5.0. And same config, untouched, just moving from 3.3.3. All my sync stats are still RMDS, right? I didn't change. Again, we recommend you guys eventually working in the changes. But again, it's up to you at what point you want to move forward with that. So that's really all I had, Matt. I'll work my way through some of the Q&A.
Yep, that's fantastic, Joe. Thanks very much. And obviously, we're not advocating customers just do a drop-in replacement by default, but in a pinch, you know, that's something they can look at. But equally so, just to show you that kind of backwards compatibility and the seamless migration path that we believe should make your life easier. Okay, thanks for that, Joe. I appreciate it. Sure. Okay, so if we change gears away from TREP and we move across to the Refinitiv Real-Time DACS, Jeff is going to run through the same key points, really, and then hand over to Ted. So, Jeff, would you like to take over? I think, Joe, have you stopped sharing your screen?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. All right, thanks again, Matt. Moving along, so DAX is up next. I'll run through the details for DAX, Open DAX, and the Open DAX permission server. Again, same thing you'll see on this slide. There's the link at the top for access the product change notification if you haven't seen it or you want to go back to it. The first fully rebranded release of software will be available to download at MyRefinitiv end of this month, end of November, which again aligns with the customer migration period of November 2020. The timeline to complete your migration again to the fully rebranded version of software, same date, 31st of July, 2021. I do want to provide one update on the delivery schedule is although the Open DAX permission server software will be completed at the end of the month, I don't expect to have all the rebranded docs completed probably for another month, or certainly by the beginning of the year anyway, just to be on the safe side with the holidays. But there's 16 or 17 docs in total for DAX, and there's just a bit of a backlog with all the update of documentation and everything that's going on. So, all right, so that takes care of that. For DAX, there is one other change you need to make. The DNS endpoints change as we move to Refinitiv, all right? So the existing endpoints have Thomson Reuters in the URL, and they have been replaced with Refinitiv, right? There's already been a technical bulletin available. The link is here that includes the step-by-step instructions with screenshots that are available on MyRefinitiv. You may need to get the new URLs whitelisted, but overall, entering in the new endpoints should be an easy task to complete. The step is especially important for icon and workspace permissioning synchronization between DAX Station and the Refinitiv centralized admin platform. So that's something you can do at any point now, all right? And again, if there's any issues, just follow the step-by-step instructions, all right? So proposed approach here, as everybody's aware, most people that have DAX have TREP, not everybody, but that's in most cases. There's certainly less releases of DAX. And we realize that the upgrades are completed less frequently than with TREP, all right? For TREP, we're seeing upgrades happen basically are completed every 1 or 2 years, and DAX is more like every 2 or 3 years. So the approach to DAX will be different than the approach to TREP, and that's primarily due to these third-party dependencies that we have on DAX, that everyone has on DAX, right? So if you're only upgrading DAX, the procedure will be the standard upgrade process, which is not overly difficult. DAX will perform the transfer of the database schema for you when you do the upgrade, right? So that takes care of that. However, if you're going to combine the DAX upgrade with a hardware refresh and an OS and a database upgrade, then the project's going to become more consuming and you'll need to start planning accordingly, right? So you have dependencies on either Oracle or Postgres for your database, and then again, 2 of the third parties, and another third party is Apache for the version of Tomcat security that we run. All right. And so those are considerations you need to make when doing the DACS upgrade, which anyone that's done one before knows this, but I'm just, again, as the approach here, I'm just trying to give you a couple of the reminders here to think about. I assume most of you have done security patches, upgrades to security patches to be in compliance, right? And Ted's going to hit on that in a second. But if you're upgrading all the DACS components, then you'll want to follow the recommended procedure that's documented in the install guide. In other words, which components to do first, second, third, right? It's an iterative process, right? And as always, support for the upgrade, there's, again, a list of direct contacts you'll have access to that include either the customer onboarding specialist or the customer success manager. And the same as before, as our professional service group is available for those customers that need assistance or that belong to the customer care program. All right. So in summary, the DACS will be available. DACS rebranded versions will be available at the end of this month to download from my Refinitiv. Again, I'm not sure on the Open DACS permission software. The software probably won't do you much good without the documentation. So we may wait and just release the complete package when it's available. So I think it'll be less confusing, but we'll see. We haven't made a final decision there. I think that's the direction we're leaning, though. And then, again, you can download the list of FAQs, which also includes DACS on my Refinitiv. That may address any other questions. And then you're welcome to email me. And that's it for me, Matt.
Thank you so much for that, Jeff. Now we're going to switch over, similar view to what we had for TREP, but with a focus on DACS. And Ted, can you run through the version history and some of the highlights and how you see these upgrades taking shape?
Sure. Thanks, Matt. I'm Ted Lakowski. I'm the lead developer and architect for DACS. So let's talk about first the upgrade. As Matt and Jeff has mentioned, the upgrade to DACS for 7.7, that we're calling this version, is very similar to what other upgrades you've done for DACS, where let's say you did an upgrade from 7.2 to 7.4. You know how SCP main does the upgrade for you. This will be very similar, which is SCP main does most of the work. The other good things of what you can take care of with the upgrade, as you can see, if you look at the columns 3 and 4, you're going to ask the question, gee, Ted, will DACS shut down on me if I don't complete this in July 31st? The answer is no. As you know, DACS will stay running. The 4th column also says something very important, which is, are you going to, if I have an issue with DACS and I haven't quite done my upgrade yet, will I still get support? Yeah, you'll get support. You have to upgrade if, for example, if I need to make a patch or something, it would be in 7.7 and later, but we still support you, which is really important. Now, if we look at the different columns, as you go across, you're going to see that there's lots of features I've been adding, right? So, for example, we have over 100, as you can see. Now, there's features. Now, you may say, I didn't really need that feature. Or there's a bug fix. I never really encountered that bug. I'm not going to worry too much about it. A lot of these are also performance enhancements, which you may say, well, I'm okay with performance. But where you really want to look at this upgrade as is the security and compliance. So as I mentioned, and Jeff has mentioned, you get an upgrade usually of Postgres, right, which is important. So, for example, if you're running on an older version, you're running on an obsolete Postgres 9.4. The latest versions are, on the newer versions of Postgres. Same for Apache Tomcat. Apache Tomcat has lots of security changes. You want to stay up to date on your Apache Tomcat. Same for the JRE. When I release 7.7, you're going to be on the latest JRE. So you don't want to get caught not upgrading. You really want to look at this as security and compliance. Compliance, I usually mention that compliance is important so that if you have to make an access statement, right, DACS will help you make access statements. If you're on a relatively old version of DACS, you don't have that, right? You may have to still be on the old way of doing compliance. So I want you to really think about that. Now, if we go back to what do I have to do on my upgrade? As I mentioned, SCP does most of the work, but you also want to look at that tech bulletin that was mentioned, which is we've done this 2 years ago. which was when we replatformed. People remember, oh yeah, I had to change the URL that we contact to upload my icon synchronization. This is going to be similar. Now, what's important you don't have to worry about is this is really a DNS change, meaning that you're talking to the exact same Refinitiv servers. We're just adding to the DNS address. Okay, so it's not like, oh, maybe you have issues with different servers that are for Refinitiv instead of Thomson Reuters. No, they're actually talking to the same machines. So the upgrade should be fairly consistent with what you've done before. So that's what I would like to have presented. And thank you very much. I'll turn it back over to you, Matt.
Thank you so much for that, Ted. Yeah, shedding some valuable light, I think, just on some of the external or the dependencies, which are probably the key pieces to do. So we've covered TREP, we've covered DACS. We also wanted to cover ATS as well. There's been a change notification sent out for that a while back, actually, but Vesna's going to run through just some of the highlights for that, because it does kind of fold into some of the same timelines as well. Obviously, there's a bit more of a pressing need, but we wanted Vesna just to give you an update on that. So Vesna, can I hand over to you, please?
Sure. Hi, everyone. So for the ATS PCN, as Matt mentioned, there's a tighter deadline. We had the first rebranded version of ATS 1.6 in July, and that's when we sent out the PCN. The reason why we have a tighter deadline of the end of this year is because we released a new user interface, which moved off of Flash and onto Angular. And as some of you may or may not know, Flash will be end of life by the end of this year. So we highly encourage clients to move off of the old UI and onto the new UI with ATS 1.6. Unfortunately, ATS 1.5 is not backward compatible with the new UI. And we cannot guarantee that the old browser versions will continue to support the old UI. So moving on to the new one is extremely important. Also, there is no dependency on rebranded versions of TREP or DACS to upgrade to ATS. So you can upgrade ATS. Hopefully, you started that upgrade without needing to upgrade TREP or DACS. Again, for any additional support, please do reach out to CSMs. We also have professional services. Our ATS development team is here for any support issues. And we also came up with a quick upgrade guide and an ATS UI migration guide, which should have scripts that help transfer files from 1.5 to 1.6 and to make it an easier transition for you all.
Thanks, Fez. And where are those scripts and guides?
They're in the 1.6 package, which is located on my Refinitiv website.
Perfect. Thanks very much. I'm sure there'll be some questions. We'll take those questions offline or after the webinar if we don't have time to get to them. Okay. Yeah. So last but by no means least, we wanted to also then start looking at the APIs as well. Obviously, there's a lot of APIs out there. The table here is going to be a bit of an eye test, but Tirthankar's here to run you through it. So Tirthankar, over to you, please.
Thank you very much, Matt. And hello, everyone, and thank you very much for joining the CAF today. So the PCN for the API rebranding changes was released on the 28th of August. The PCN number is right there on top of the screen. And I will run you through some of the changes on the APIs. So we've got all the APIs on the left-hand side of the table. The first two obviously are our strategic APIs and then followed by the legacy APIs. For starters, let's focus on columns 2, 4, and 5. So column 2 essentially shows you which APIs, the rebranding changes of which APIs will result in changes to your application when you upgrade. So if you look closely, there are only 4 yeses and there are 6 nos. So all the APIs are not changing. All the APIs are not going to impact your applications. It's just 4 APIs that will impact your applications. Now, if you are after the 31st of July, I'm looking at column 4 now. If you are on an older version of the API after the 31st of July, those APIs, and if you are on an old non-rebranded version, to be specific, those APIs will continue to work just as they work today. So on the 1st of August, that API will work exactly like it works now, even though it is not rebranded. Because Refinitiv real-time infrastructure on the backend side, there's nothing changing. The fifth column, the next question is, if you are using an old non-rebranded version of the API, are we going to support it? Absolutely. You see yes for all the rows, there's yes. So we will continue to support them through our help desk, through the Refinitiv developer community portal, through GitHub. So you can report old rebranded, non-rebranded versions. You can report problems to us. We will record it. We will track it. We will investigate it. We will replicate the problem, and we will come back with a workaround. And if it's an emergency, if it's a blocker issue, emergency issue on production, we will issue you an e-load, but that will be before that will be before 31st of July 2021. Now, going back to the first API, I'll go through the API row by row. The Electron Sdk, which is available in C, C++, and Java. So there will be changes to the application if you are connecting to the transport layer Java, the message layer C++, the message layer Java. And we recommend you to upgrade. And my colleague Vasavi from the engineering team will take you through what it requires, what you need to do for an upgrade in a few minutes. As you will see, the upgrade is very straightforward and very simple. If you are connected to a transport layer C application, there are absolutely no change required. Now, the Electron Sdk is the new name for that, which is, I'm referring to column 3, is Refinitiv Real-Time Sdk, and it has already been released. We released it in October 2020, last month. And it's available for you on GitHub and on the developer portal for you to download and start doing your migrations. And we will support you with that migration as well. Moving on, the Websocket API, which is essentially a protocol spec. There are absolutely no changes required. We've already updated the protocol spec and released that in September. Moving on to the legacy APIs, RFA Java. If you are connected to the core RFA Java layer, then again, there are absolutely no changes required. However, if you are connecting to the value add layer, then we recommend you upgrade. And the new versions, both version 8 and version 7 of RFA, version 7 uses market feed. The version numbers are there for you there on column 3. And the RFAs and the legacy APIs, including the RFAs, all of these are going to be released sometime just before the 31st of December this year. Now for RFA Java, we know that most of our customers are connected to the core RFA. So again, there is no change there. If you're using the RFA C++ API, there is no change. There is a new version, but it does not impact your application. You don't have to make any code changes to your application. RFA.NET, yes, we recommend an upgrade to the version that's mentioned in column 3. SFCs and RMC, absolutely no changes required. There will be the same version will be released, and we will just update the documentation and the libraries, etc. But there are no changes required on your application side. Last but not the least, the UPA API. This is slightly an outlier, this API. So the history of this API is slightly different. So this API was rebranded to ETA back in 2015. So ETA, the ETA API now is essentially a continuation of the UPA API. And this was rebranded, and since 2015, we haven't done any releases or bug fixes for this API. So if you're on this API, I would strongly recommend migrating to ETA. Now, the migration will be easy because, like I said, ETA is just a continuation of the UPA with a different name. Again, this API, although we will end of life it on the 31st of July, even after 31st of July, if you are using UPA, it will continue to work with absolutely no interruption. However, we will not be supporting it because of, obviously we are end of lifing it. So the next question is, when we release new versions from now on, which version will be releasing them on? So any new enhancements, bug fixes, new functionalities, features will all be released on the new rebranded version going forward, as is standard practice. So that's me. Hopefully, this has been useful to you, and I have been able to put your mind to rest that not all the APIs are changing, and all of these APIs will continue to work. And we are, Refinitiv are here available for any type of support for even the non-rebranded older APIs. I'd like to now hand over to my colleague Vasabi, who I believe has a few points to add on this slide.
Thank you, Tirthankar. Yes, so just to re-emphasize a couple of things here, any applications that you've written to the APIs currently will continue to work as is, and support will obviously continue exactly as is, where we'll triage your any issues and provide you with fixes. But we do encourage you to do the upgrades where there are yeses in the column, the second column there, for a couple of reasons. One is to be able to pick up the new features, support for new compilers, for new operating systems, as well as not to run out of time if there is a high priority fix that you require, that you're, are poised to pick up the changes on the rebranded version. We encourage you to move ahead to the rebranded versions proactively. So with every API that we will be rebranding or have rebranded, there will be a document called rebrand.text or rebrand.md, which will walk through precisely what the impact is in terms of if there is a change that you have to make to the applications, it'll be outlined clearly there. So with as Tirthankar covered, sort of with the Electron Sdk, the main change there is for the EMA C++ or the ETA Java or the ETA, EMA Java or ETA Java, and that would be a change to the namespace. For the RFAs, we'll absolutely continue to still support the 7 and the 8 versions. The 7 will continue to have support for SSL and RSSL protocols, and 8 will, of course, still support RSSL. So with RFA C++ 7 or 8, no changes. You should be able to drop in the libraries, and it's business as usual from there. With RFA Java, I want to be very clear here. The only change is if you're using value add, and the change again is to namespace. And I'll show you in the next couple of slides exactly what that looks like. Just one more thing to add about the UPAs is that your migration path, because UPA is end of life soon, is to go to ETA. With the C edition, when you go to the rebranded version, it should be fairly seamless. With Java, there are, as I've mentioned already, there's a change to the namespace. Next slide, please, Matt.
Yep, here we go. Moved on to the next slide.
Great. So on this slide, you're looking at actually a diff between an example that's pre-rebrand, post-rebrand, and this is a value add RFA Java example. As you'll notice, the only difference there is that you just need to change those import statements from Thomson Reuters to Reuters. Now we chose Reuters here to absolutely minimize the impact to you. With RFA in general, we have registry entries that you may have to that say Reuters currently. There's no change to any of the configuration, and it's as simple as just switching out that Thomson Reuters to Reuters in the case of RFA Java. Next slide, please. All right, in this one, you're looking at the diff between the pre-rebrand and rebranded versions of EMA Java. You'll notice here again, same thing. It's as simple as a global find and replace for the Thomson Reuters to Refinitiv. a recompile, and off to the races. A couple of things I'd like to note in general about the SDK, of which EMA and ETA are both parts of, is that if you are picking up these from Maven Central, because we did change the namespace, you would be going to com Refinitiv instead of com Thomson Reuters, and the library names are also different. So wherever you used to have UPA, it would be ETA. So your build.gradle, the compile group will be com Refinitiv EMA or com Refinitiv ETA as opposed to com Thomson Reuters UPA. The names of the libraries change in the same file if you're using Gradle. We do have a sample of this Gradle file, by the way, in our AWS AMI, which contains all of these examples that connect up into our Refinitiv data platform, just as an FYI. It's fairly straightforward. Again, everything I've mentioned here is covered in detail in the rebrand.md or rebrand.txt file, depending on which API you're looking through. So that's about it about the APIs. Just as a final note, they will continue to work because nothing has changed on the wire. It's about the reason you'd upgrade would be to try and not hit that time-sensitive mark if you do have a high priority issue, and to, of course, pick up all of our new features and fixes. And just to give you an idea, we had about 60 or so features and fixes just in the last release. So a lot of exciting things coming up for you. So we urge you to do the upgrades and move on to the rebranded versions. All right, that's all I have. Back to you, Matt.
Thanks very much for that, Vasavi. I think that was pretty thorough from both Vasavi and Tatanka. And on the back of that, just so that they can make sure they are on the right track in terms of priorities, they wanted to put a quick poll question out there. As you can read on the screen, which of our real-time APIs do you rely on most at your company? It might be that you have all of these, but which are the ones that are more strategic for you? Which are the ones where you invest most time and where potentially you have most risk? It's multi-choice, so click away. And we'll see where we end up in a second or so. You can see it's kind of it's from the top. It's the most up to date and strategic, kind of going back into the annals of history, all the way down to SSL, which is source sync library, I think. So that's way back when. And actually, just on that topic, there was, I think we end of life SSL in 2015. Yet we still have customers as an integral part of their work streams. So we continue to support it. And I think that just goes to show that even though we have some of these branding deadlines, we're not going to suddenly drop you and leave you in the lurch, so to speak. So I think that really is something we're keen to emphasize, and hopefully we've got that point across. So let's have a flick across and we'll see what the results look like. It's a big old screen. I'm going to have to scroll down to see. So RFA Java and RFA C++ really are the sweet spot there in terms of most customers having that. I think it's actually good to see that we have EMA Java at the top there as well, sort of gaining some ground. It really does go to show there was sort of the height of application development during those RFA days. I think we're very keen to move that on now into the next generation of APIs we've got, which does a better job in a much smaller set of code. So good to see. Thank you very much for clicking through those. And also SSL at 17% still. There you go. So justified in what we're doing there. So that was all of the different products we wanted to cover. I just wanted to kind of summarize and just re-emphasize some of the points. First of all, thank you to all of the speakers that we've just gone through. I think there's a whole ton of great information, some great intelligence that we've got there. So hopefully that's helped you out as well. The Q&A sections are light with questions. We'll try and get to as many of those as we can do as well. Hopefully it's sort of giving you an idea about what you need to do and some of the deadlines. Those are some of the dates we're looking at on the screen. Again, nothing stops working. We just want to make sure that you have all the support, all of the features, all of the enhancements that we've been working so hard on over the past several years at your fingertips. Okay, so I think Before we move on to the next section, I just wanted to really kind of summarize what we've done here, and maybe finish on a call to action. So as it says here, after July 31st, Refinitiv will only be releasing new features, enhancements, bug fixes, emergency loads on rebranded versions, and that's for API, for TREP, for value-added services, for DACS, and all of our Refinitiv suite of products. You as customers, you should plan and ideally complete those migrations by the 31st of July to be eligible for those ongoing support and software release. So that's the message we wanted to get out. If you don't get to that in time, then so be it. If you need help, we've got all of the different resources. We've put as much documentation out there as we possibly can. We've got professional services packages if you want to outsource this to us to do. It's up to you how you want to manage it, but we'll make sure we've given you as much as we can, and we'll continue to carry this dialogue through. Okay, so I think what we wanted to do was, and what we're doing for time, so we're just at the top of the hour, so we're actually not doing as bad as I thought, because there's a lot of material we've just covered. I think what I wanted to go through now was a few Q&As. I think because we've received a bunch of emails already ahead of time, a whole load of questions coming in, there's some kind of ongoing themes that we've been seeing. So we've got some of those questions we've already kind of put together. Let me bring those over, figuring that most of the questions we've hopefully addressed in the FAQ, but we've had some just as a lead up to this event. So I'll read through some of these, and I'll sort of get the team to respond as appropriate. So top one, absolutely valid. How long have Refinitiv known about this change requirement, and why was it so late to address? So Jeff, did you want to take that one, please? Give you that fun one to start with.
Yeah, sure. Basically, it's a fair question given our acquisition. Basically, once the requirements were made clear, we fully engaged in the process to create the change notifications that have gone through the standard process to publish them to the product notification section on My Refinitiv. And basically, if you're signed up for those product change notifications on My Refinitiv, you would have seen the alert the same day. So again, as we found out, we did proceed through the program for rebranding and sent out these alerts and notifications. Thanks.
Thanks, Jeff. Thank you. And next question was, will Refinitiv provide resources free of charge to help with migration? I think we touched upon that already, but Tathanka, do you want to maybe reiterate this point?
Hello, yes, absolutely. So we've got a range of technical and support resources like guides, articles, tutorials, videos that will help customers through this migration. Customers can also get in touch with us through the usual channels that are available even now. For example, GitHub. There are engineers always monitoring GitHub, and they would answer questions as soon as possible they come in. Then you can post questions on the developer community forum. You could ask your customer success specialist or your customer onboarding specialist, and they will get in touch with us. So customers who have kept up to date with Refinitiv's product roadmap with our version releases, they will be able to upgrade quite easily. Shouldn't be a problem for them. It may be a slightly bigger challenge for people who are on very older versions, but support is available for them as well with the channels I just mentioned. And obviously, we have a range of professional services packages that customers could buy if the need arises.
Excellent. Thanks very much. Yeah, I think we've made that point hopefully quite clear. Next question, and this one's come in a few times. What's the exception process if we cannot meet these deadlines? Vesna?
So if you do have any concerns about upgrading or meeting deadlines for any of the products, the best person to reach out to would be someone from your account team. They can provide you with more information and connect you to the right people. As Tathanka said, they can also connect you to professional services if needed.
Great. Thank you very much. I think there was also a question and popped in a few times about our contractual obligations around the timeframes that we've been talking about. So the boring answer, but it's the right answer. This is an upgrade under Refinitiv standard contractual terms. Notifications we've provided meet our obligations. So again, hopefully that helps you promote this internally and get the priority that you do need, and work through that. I think next question is, who do I work with at Refinitiv to perform this migration, and who owns this program of work? Jeff, can you take that one, please?
Sure. Basically, the rebranding program has assigned, either, depending on the customers, either the customer onboarding specialist to reach out to some customers, or the customer success manager to work with others. And again, as Vesna just said, and Trahank earlier, customers can always reach out to their account team.
Yeah, thanks very much. Can we get a clear list of priorities? What will stop working? What services will be impaired? I think we've answered that one already, but Vasavi, anything to add?
I'm afraid the best answer here is a bit generic, but each customer will need to make their own determination on this. We will have or have already provided documentation with each product about exactly what the impact is and what will be changing and when it will be changing, which should help you decide basically the right set of priorities to adapt to these changes, and based on your particular business or technology requirements.
Yep, perfect. Thanks very much. Next question we have is, has consideration and analysis been carried out to assess the complexity of these migrations? I hope we've already answered that question, but Tathanka, you want to maybe re-emphasize that?
Yes, absolutely. So at Refinitiv, I mean, we've been fully aware and very conscientious of the obligation that we are placing on our customers to upgrade to the newer versions. And as we have demonstrated, me and all my fellow product managers, that our aim has always been to make these upgrades as simple and as straightforward as possible. And I hope we've been able to demonstrate that through this presentation.
Great, thank you. Another question that was raised earlier, and Joe touched upon it, when Refinitiv moves under LSEG, which, you know, it's looking good but not committed yet, but let's assume it happens, is there a likelihood that we'll have to perform another migration, rename, rebrand? At this time, we've not been given any indication that further rebranding will be required. Having said that, and as Joe pointed out, we've made some defensive changes as well, just to make sure if it does, or in 10 years' time when things change again, and we've still got some of these codes out there, then we tried to make it as easy and seamless and generic and standard industry naming conventions as possible. Okay. A couple of questions came in before about what were the benefits. I think we've also talked about that in terms of the number of benefits that we've got with each of these software releases, and all of those are captured in the what's new documentation that we release. We'll also try and put together a little bit more of a sort of a bumper pack of the benefits as well, and release that after this webinar as well. I think that would be useful. Another question: how should I proceed with the current upgrade initiatives underway? You know, how do I prioritize that? Joe, can you take that one, please?
Yeah, I mean, it's really a prioritization of effort and exposure that you have with your software, but obviously work with the Refinitiv customer success managers on any of those upgrades. Yeah,
absolutely. You know, everyone mileage may vary on all of these, so we can help you and give you as much advice, but I think you need to work out what your critical exposure is there. Are there any commercial implications? So I can take this one. I think so long as you're on the current supported version of software, then there shouldn't be any commercial implications, no commercial changes. Having said that, we've looked through some of the stats we've got, and you know, the fact that we still have people on some of those older versions of TREP, DACS, some of those old APIs, they may have some commercial implications. So have those discussions with your account team. I expect those to very much be the outliers, though, and not the norm. Okay. And then I think there's one more question. Are professional services scaled up and funded to assist with these migrations? Jeff, we'll go back to you for that one, perhaps.
Sorry about that. I was trying to answer some questions down here. All right. Basically, yes, that is certainly a good question. Here's kind of where we're at with professional services, right? The group's certainly been engaged with the whole rebranding process. They're aware of, the workload that's coming, as we've tried to make everybody aware of the workload that's coming. I know they already have a list of customers that have either requested assistance or are part of the existing complete care program, and that they're going to be working with. So basically, my understanding right now is professional service has sufficient resources to remotely fulfill requests. But keep in mind, we're very early in the migration period, and as we get closer to that deadline, resources are going to be consumed. So, but anyway, that's the update for where we're at right now on professional services. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Just while Jeff was talking through that question, I think we need to move on because we've only got 20 minutes and we've got a fair bit to go. So for the speakers coming up, please do be concise and to the point. But in the meantime, it's not a poll question so much, but it's just if you wanted a CSM, customer onboarding specialist, part of your account team to contact you, then if you click yes now on the slide and submit that, we'll take note of your email address and then contact you out of cycle and hopefully address your questions. Okay, so with that, we will move on to section 2, which is roadmap updates. So we've got TREP, we've got value-added services, DACS, real-time optimized, which is something we've launched a couple of years ago, but we'll be doing a big launch in less than a couple of weeks' time. Sonia can go through that. And then also APIs. I'm not going to read through all of the tiny text there, but again, no commitments unless it's already been released effectively. So that's kind of where we are. So I will pass the microphone over to Jeff, who can run through some of the highlights from a couple of pages of TREP roadmap items for the next year. Over to you, Jeff.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Matt. Hello again. This part 2 was supposed to have 30 minutes. We have 20 minutes. So I'm just going to hit on a couple of these because we just don't have time and there's other people to talk. I want to hit the first one, which is level 2 delay data. And I bring that up because I know there's people on this presentation that certainly have requested this enhancement. So basically what we have is we'll be able to offer now level 2 delay data, and that covers market by price, market by order, and other domains, including customer published data. So again, the benefit on something like that, customers can reduce their exchange fees for those customers that do not need real-time data. All right. I'll do one more because I need to give everybody else time. I'll just skip down to number 4. This is something new. Basically, it's real-time distribution system cloud connect for AWS, right? We've offered data out of AWS since fourth quarter 2018, so almost 2 years, which basically leverages the ADS POP. And we have customers now, as of this year, that are actually moving into AWS, and we're finding out that everyone seems to have their own requirements, right? Which is requiring a lot of custom solutions, which tend to be more expensive and more time consuming to implement and more difficult to support. So with this enhancement, what we're doing is we're going to make available standard real-time distribution system deployments that will address licensing issues around our node lock licenses for each different cloud provider, cloud specific images, such as with Amazon, it's AMIs, and other configurations that are cloud specific, along with orchestration tools and support. So again, we can't be everything to everyone unless we do a custom solution. But what we're trying to do is come up with a package that basically has the benefit of these predefined deployments that will offer more favorable commercials than having bespoke solutions, and be more timely to implement, basically. So, and by having these standard kind of packages that we can offer, it's backed by a completely standard global support model. So those are really the benefits right there. I'd like to go on more. I could spend half an hour myself. There's 16 enhancements here for next year. A lot going on, a lot of good value that's going to be delivered. So please take a look at those. All right. That's it for TREP.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah. Appreciate that. Vesna, there's value-added services kind of outside of the core capabilities. This is touching upon some of those. So did you want to highlight a couple here?
Sure, I'll quickly run through them. Again, we're sending these slides out, so if anyone needs more information, please look through the slides. So we're looking to, in Q1, we're looking to containerize ATS and also including ANS. We're also looking to release ATS in the cloud in Q2 of next year. Looking to do Red Hat 8 support in Q3, maybe Q4, depending on when TREP's doing their Red Hat 8 release for their qualification. And then also throughout the year, we're looking to do a few enhancements for ATS, including TRIS and IDS and ANS as well.
Short but sweet. Thank you very much. Yeah. And any questions on that, ping them into the channel. And again, we can do some follow-up sessions. We just wanted to kind of show you what we're thinking about for 2021. Along those lines, Jeff, back to you. This is the DAX Road Map that we've got lined up for 7.7 and beyond.
A DAX Road Map? When's the last time anyone saw one of those? Sorry, I'll try to keep this short. Anyway, there's a number of enhancements here you can see for next year. I'm going to hit on basically the very first one right now because customers are asking about this kind of immediately. They're looking for Red Hat 8 for DAX because people are looking to do the migration. They're looking to do an OS upgrade as well. So for DAX server, syncd, WAN-R, and the libdax.OSs, those are already supported on Red Hat 8. That was part of the 7.6 release in July. The DAX station requires some additional testing due to these third-party dependencies that I mentioned earlier. We're anticipating we can complete that testing and have the full DAX suite supported on Red Hat 8 in Q1. All right. Again, simple benefit there. This is off of Red Hat. They'll tell you that Red Hat 8 offers better manageability, improved performance, and enhanced security features that weren't available on previous versions. So again, we're working on that. We just need to finish the testing. All right. And then I'm going to move down to the very next one. You'll see that this is almost verbatim with the enhancement that I just gave you for TREP. We have customers that are also using DAX in the cloud. So same situation again. We want to come up with kind of a standard deployment that people can use and roll out themselves, or professional services can roll out themselves. And again, the same benefit again is these predefined deployments will offer more favorable commercials than a bespoke solution, more timely implementations. And again, the best thing is we have solutions that will be supported by our global support model. So those are all really good benefits for customers, and those are the ones I want to focus on now. There's certainly other ones here that are really good. I'd suggest you look at this list. If I had more time, I'd hit on at least one more, but we're running out of time quickly. So if we have time, I could always come back, but that's it for now, Matt. Thanks.
Appreciate that, Jeff. Sonia, you've been sitting very patiently for 80 minutes. Would you like to run through our real-time optimized roadmap? Maybe give a quick overview of what it is for those that might not be familiar.
Yeah, absolutely. As both you and Jeff have already alluded to, it's not just TREP and DAX and our value add that you can run in the cloud. We also offer an AWS native service that you can connect to from anywhere. We were the first largest consolidated vendor to do this, and we did it about 2 years ago, as Jeff mentioned, and we've been enhancing it ever since. We've got a lot of exciting brand new features coming out for you over the next couple of months, which includes large watch lists, and over the next year, because we're going to be expanding into Tokyo, Frankfurt, and Ohio. We're also making sure that we are keeping up with your demands in terms of security, whitelisting IPs, making sure that you can connect in as many ways as you need. So we have a really exciting roadmap. And if you want any more information, I'm more than happy for you to reach out to anybody on this webinar to learn more about our services and maybe even have a free trial.
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely. Free trials. We're giving those out. A lot of people are very interested in that at the moment. Thanks for that, Sonia. And then last but not least, to thank her, can you spend sort of not very long on your roadmap, pull out some of the highlights?
Yeah, absolutely. So I will choose 3 of my favorite features that I believe add the most value to the APIs. So I will choose 1, 2, and 6. So number 1, WebSocket transport and Rtsdk Java. So Rtsdk is the new name for ESDK. So this gives you the ability to use JSON messages over WebSockets within ESDK, within Rtsdk. Now, within Rtsdk, you can connect to a host, a backend host using plain sockets. But this gives you additional choice of, instead of plain sockets, if you'd like to use WebSockets and JSON messages over WebSockets. The advantage with this is the benefit with this is you can use WebSockets, JSON messages over WebSockets, along with all the other features that the SDK offers, like session management, failover, and various other features, because Rtsdk being a package, it's very feature rich. Number two, so we are developing a converter library, and we've had customers show great interest, express great interest in this piece of functionality, which will help you convert RWF wire format into JSON and vice versa. So there's a converter library will be available for that. And then after number two, I will jump straight to number 6, warm standby. This is another feature which has some customers have shown expressed very high levels of interest in this feature. So the API will now maintain 2 connections with the host, a standby connection and an active connection. And if there is a problem with the active connection, the streaming update will move to the standby connection. So the benefit with this is there is more resilience and peace of mind if you are using this API for especially a trading application.
Great. Yeah, and so much more we could talk about, and appreciate time is of the essence. We also wanted to squeeze in one more demo, and we've got this, and we've also got Mahesh to talk about ADS POPs as well. So we've got a lot to do in 8 minutes. Hopefully, guys can hang around for 5 minutes beyond if we run over. Joe, can you put yourself on fast forward and quickly run through the snapshot demo? Just got to explain what you're doing and where this is and why customers would love it.
Sure, Matt, thanks. Let me reshare my screen. I've got a quick slide here to show you guys a couple new features coming up in 3.5.0 or already out in 3.5.0. So we continue to enhance our REST interface. So we now have REST snapshots. Before, through the manageability interface, you could dump cache from there, but now we actually have a REST snapshot interface built in that same REST. So it supports level 1 market price today, supports DACS, batch requests, view requests, and there's a default snapshot service and default username so that you guys can really make minimal requests in just an item name and you're off. There's optional encryption. We support all the REST standard security options we do today, so the auditing and the IP whitelist. Get and post support, so you guys can actually put the request in the post and the HTTP payload as well if you wanted to. It supports RWF services only, so our JSON converter today only supports RWF in. If you want to support market feed services, you're going to have to do it at conversion at the service level. So just something to be aware of. And then there's a couple examples of just doing a single snapshot if you want to do a batch, and then if you want to do a view. As I said, there's a default username and service that you can make, so really the only thing that you would need by default is just the snapshot and the item name. So a quick demo. So I have same 3.5 that I was running before, but in the meantime, I added some big enable REST snapshot manageability, and I also enabled encryption now. That the encryption works for both manageability and the REST snapshot now. And you can see here, I have my REST interface up and running in my ADS. So I just have a real simple script. My certificate information using curl. Here's a single request, so you can see I'm just doing a snapshot for Google. Again, service and username are optional if you're going to use a configurable default for those. Here's a batch example, so just 2 items, Google and IBM. And here's one with the view, so I'm just asking for bid and ask. And then here's one with using the post option and using both view and batch. So I have my list of items and then my view. So up to you guys how you want to do it. I'm being in through a JSON parser just to make it look a little bit nicer. Run that up. Here's my single response. coming back again, the same JSON format that you guys, here's a batch request. So I'm going to have multiple items. Then here's a quick view request with a single item. So you can see I only get bid and ask back. And then here's using the post option using batch and view. So again, I'm only getting bid and ask, and I'm getting Google and both IBM in the same response. So the same thing you guys do over WebSockets now, you can do snapshots over REST. And that's all in 3.5.0 with optional encryption now as well. That's all I have, Matt.
Joe.
Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you. And again, that was out today. Phase 1 of our REST approach was to do monitoring, and that was released beginning of the year. And then by the end of this year, as promised, we've then released the ability to snap the market data off that as well. So again, expanding that capabilities, I think that'll be a big one for a lot of customers. So please do give us your feedback and let us know what we're missing from that as well. Okay. So I think we'll quickly hand over to Mahesh, because Mahesh has been sat even more patiently than everyone else. He's got an update on the G10 test results. So Mahesh, over to you, please.
Thank you, Matt. So yeah, we started the ADS POP performance work back in April. And, compared to the 3 data points we used to provide for a cache-enabled ADS or RMP, based on the new functionality that has been added over the years through WebSocket connectivity in 3.2, inbound threading in 3.3, and encryption in 3.4, and also based on the feedback of customers that they need to see some data still for SSL connectivity, and also they wanted higher watch lists when we presented the number of supportable connections that you can have. What is the cost of conflation? So we added all these kinds of metrics, and we have now about 100 data points that we have published as part of the August document, and the one that we are going to be releasing now in November. So the first document back in August covered the ADS POP with nothing but the main thread. This seems to be one of the popular options available if you want to do like a cloud deployment. So in an elastic fashion, you can scale up, scale down. So that's where some of the value of that comes in. One of the key takeaways that was observed during this testing is that the test tool option to request the item key. If you don't do that, then you have double conversion penalty. So we saw 50% to 300% impact. So if you are on 3.4, or this would work in 3.2, 3.3 as well, please make sure to pay attention to that, and that is in the results document. Next slide, please. So this is part of the document that is going to be released this month. So the left one shows the scalability of the item thread. So you can see that we have a 4-fold increase in the number of messages that we can process inbound once you go from just the main thread, which is similar to a single item thread, all the way to 7 item threads on this platform. And then we also enabled 200 millisecond conflation to see that, okay, the cost of conflation is now spread across the item threads. So it is 40% cost as opposed to the 70% that we were seeing with the main thread only deployment. And one of the things to keep in mind is the protocol, because of the protocol, the uncompressed message sizes are different. Our standard benchmark is 74-byte RWF. But when you convert a market feed, it's 140 bytes. When you convert a JSON, it's 340 bytes. So because of that, how many updates can you get out of a 10 gig link would be like a 13 million for RWF, whereas it's 3.5 million for JSON. So you need to account for that as you scale up your threads, because you can, for example, have 10 writer threads or 12 writer threads, but you may be bandwidth constrained. So keeping that in mind, if you look at the right-hand side of this, so this is the one that shows you, this is a 8-core deployment for the ADS POP with 5 writer threads and just a main thread in this case. So you'll see how many connections we can do if you were to just use the main thread, or we were to use a number of writer threads. And it goes anywhere from 4 to 5 times, as you can see here. So keep the bandwidth in consideration as you do this. I threw in a couple of examples there. So for example, what does it mean when you say, 1K with inbound, fixed inbound message rate. So we assume 3 updates per second per item. So that would actually mean, 3,000 updates coming in, going out to 3,000 connections. So that will be 9 million updates per second out. But that will fit nicely within the 30 million we have for 10 gig on the RWF there. And if you go up the scale there, if you look at a 100K watch list, if you assume 3 updates per second coming in, so that's 300K in, so going across to 70 connections, that's 21 million, then you're really looking at 20 Gbps there. So bandwidth is a big consideration in addition to the compute. The training model scales really well. And also the interrupt handling can become heavy as you do lots of connections and lots of messaging. And the results document has some screenshots of top. So you can also look at that to gain an understanding of the cost of the interrupt handling. So that's the quick summary. Back to you, Matt.
Matt, you're on mute. I didn't hear a thing.
It was all going so well, Jeff. Thanks for that. So the polling question, hopefully you've had a chance to read through those and click on which ones you want, multi-choice, or put them in the box afterwards for the survey. Please do submit whatever you want. So let's have a quick look what we've got. Hopefully everyone's got an idea. So certainly TREP, we'll touch upon as many of these as we can. Again, time permitting, we're already over time now. So only the last couple of things to say, really. First of all, thank you very much for everyone involved in organizing and speaking on the Refinitiv side. And more importantly, thanks to all of the customers for actually joining today, giving us 90+ minutes of their time. Hopefully this has been useful. We want to do more of these. Give us feedback, give us guidance on what you need. Stay online if there's a feedback form you want to fill. And otherwise, I'd just like to say thank you ever so much. And we will be speaking to you again soon. All right. Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.